In the midst of much confusion, we decided to unify. We won't let the vision die. We know there is a greater purpose. One aim, one destiny, and we'll all stay aligned to what's preferred by Yah. Man keep his hand in the hand of Yah, with woman by his side. Our children will follow, and together in unity we'll shine and glorify Yah. Together forever we'll glorify Yah. In unity together we'll glorify Yah. In truth and in unity. One love, one destiny, one great God family. In truth and in unity. One love, one destiny, one great God family. Yeah, yeah. Nothing will ever come between us. Our bond is tight, doing what's required and what's right. No, there is a greater purpose. One aim, one destiny, and we'll all stay aligned to what's preferred by Yah. Man keep his hand in the hand of Yah, with woman by his side. Our children will follow, together in unity we'll shine and glorify Yah. Together forever we'll glorify Yah. In unity together we'll glorify Yah. In truth and in unity. One love, one destiny, one great God family. In truth and in unity. One love, one destiny, one great God family. You gave us back to one another. He opened up our eyes and he gave us the gifts of the God. We know there is a greater purpose. One aim, one destiny, and we'll all stay alive to us. We heard by Yah. Man, keep your hands in the hands of Yah, with woman by your side. Our children will follow. Together in unity we'll shine and glorify Yah. Together forever and glorify Yah. In unity together we'll glorify Yah. Right now and in unity. Together in one destiny. One great God family. Together forever we'll glorify Yah. In unity together we'll glorify Yah. We gotta have it. One love, one destiny. Still got the glory. Together forever, don't you know we'll glorify Yah. In unity together we'll glorify Yah. In truth and in unity, I must be fast. Yes, one love, one destiny. Yeah, one great God. Together forever we'll glorify Yah. In unity together we'll glorify Yah. In truth and in unity, it's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. Yeah. One with God. Come on. Together. Let's walk together hand in hand. Glorify God. In unity all over the land. Right now. In truth and unity. One love, one destiny. One love, one great family. Together forever. Glorify God. In unity. Glorify God. In truth and in unity. Truth and unity. One love, one destiny. All right, y'all. I'm glad you're here. We had a power, not a power outage. Let me turn this off. We didn't have a power outage, but we had an internet outage. So that's what the holdup was. I'm wide awake and I want to be able to do this hangout. And now a few of my things are not here, but let me just see if I can get everything together on my end. That way I can share my screen. See, I had one up here that I wanted to show you. See if I can go in my history here. Okay. Come on, I know it's here. All right, I got what I need. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, y'all. Let me know if you can see my screen before I get started. Give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Please give me a 1. Give me a 1 in the chat if you can see my screen. Okay. Okay, good. All right, now we can get started. And those of you that came into the room, shalom to you. Okay. All right, let's get started, y'all. Now, we all know about slavery, all right? And I know a lot of us will always say slavery built America and its economy, which is true. But actually, it's a lot bigger than that. Slavery actually built the entire global economy because it went on everywhere. Remember, some of our people were slaves in the Arab world. Some were slaves in South America, in the islands, even in the Asian nations. We were slaves everywhere. So our slavery literally built the entire global economy. So when you say we built America, you're not even scratching the surface. You got to understand, every nation depended on us as being slaves in order to build their economy. Okay, and that's really important, that
Whenever you teach our slavery, that it's understood that way. It went well beyond the South, it went well beyond the States. It was the entire global economy, because our slavery gave the US the ability to buy more slaves off of their slaves, and cotton was 91% of America's economy. It was called the slave economy because that is where all of their money came from. They literally said slave economy because that's where it came from. So there are no people in this land that can make the claim that they built this nation. No, they didn't. And it's documented. It is no point in me even arguing with you over that. It is documented that slavery built the educational institutions in this country. Slavery built the insurance companies, the banking institutions in the country. All types of manufacturing companies came about out of slavery. Other jobs were created out of slavery. Literally everything in America came out of slavery, off of our free labor. But that free labor was worldwide. So we actually changed the entire world from our enslavement. We didn't just change America, we changed the world. It goes so deep, you just can't even imagine. These nations heavily depended on our slavery in order to have anything. That's what you all must understand. Yes, I mean, America wouldn't even have a military if it wasn't for the slavery that happened. And everything you see going on in the Arab world, that is the result of slavery. Everything, drilling oil, building up their societies in the Arab world, all of that came from slavery. Europe, all of those homes and castles that you see over in Europe, those white folks did not build those castles, y'all. They didn't build those castles over there in Europe. When I was living there, you could still see the little figurines of the Moors that lived in the original people that lived in the castle. They had the little figurines on top of the castle. And when I first went over to Germany, it used to throw me off. I was like, why am I always seeing these little black figurines on top of the castle? Come to find out, that's who built those castles. Those Europeans can't go out in all that baking sun and build castles. Come on. Those castles did not come from them. And to this day, they do all kinds of tours through old castles in Europe, and they're still profiting and making money off of what our people built. Do you know in Spain, the houses that were built by the Black Moors are still the most sought after homes in Spain? The original homes in Spain built by the Moors, they are still fighting over those homes when they go on the market for sale. Whenever we build, whatever we build and our ancestors build, it lasts forever. You can see remnants of what we built forever. Even when I put out those biblical videos, a lot of those towns that I'm showing you, they were built by our people, and you still can see remnants of it. It's almost like everything we place on this earth, it never really fades away. It's always some kind of remnant of what we did, what our work was, is still left. Our footprint is everywhere. So don't undercut us by saying the US, we are responsible for this entire planet having an economy. Period. They have financed everything off of slavery. Everything you see on this planet has been it has been financed through slavery. So, they can talk all that mess to us, but technically, when you look at it in terms of a global economy, this entire globe owes us reparations. And I'm serious. That's how far it goes. The entire planet owes us reparations, not just the US. You know, there are nations that we, because of the ability that the US had to trade with others off of our slavery, crops and cotton and liquor and all that stuff came from us, that they were able to trade globally. So we are responsible for the whole thing. So the US and every goddamn body on this planet owes us reparations. And that's the truth. So that's the first phase of it. Now let's talk about some of the other things that have come out of our blood, sweat, and tears. Today, mass incarceration is fueling the American economy. Mass incarceration. And mass incarceration, ladies and gentlemen, is also global. When you look at other nations, we are the most incarcerated people on the planet. In the Arab world, guess who's in most of those prisons? Black men and women. Who's in the prisons here in the US? Black men and women. South America. It doesn't matter where you go. The most incarcerated person on the planet are the people that are Black. Okay, no matter where you go on the planet, that is the case. I was even looking at an article from Australia, and it said the Aborigines are 3% of the population, but they made up the bulk of the prisoners in Australia. So, it was the same way during apartheid in South Africa. Damn near everybody in jail was Black, but anybody that was white, they always had some excuse for them not to be in jail. It's the same way here. A white person can commit a felony and walk out of the courtroom and go home, or they can kill us and walk out of that courtroom and go home. There's a reason why they want to keep the juries all white. Mass incarceration is one of those reasons. They can't mass incarcerate Black people unless they keep the juries all white. Okay? So this is how they can let their people walk out of the courtroom, but make damn sure they give you astronomical sentences. You notice they want to talk affirmative action when it comes down to every sector, but you notice how they don't be worried about affirmative action when it comes down to choosing juries in this country. You can have a crime that takes place in an all-Black neighborhood, and I'll be damned if they scrape up some all-white jury from somewhere. Okay, that is the truth. I mean, we know this. We know this. So, ladies and gentlemen, mass incarceration is fueling America. So we had the slave economy from the past that made America what it is. And now mass incarceration is fueling the American economy. But you see, they keep this stuff under wrap and constantly try to make the Black community feel like we are nothing, we don't contribute anything, we don't do nothing. but we are actually the biggest contributors in America, past and present. Okay. Well, first of all, Kim Jones, white people are not jury of our peers. The only way they are jury of our peers if we are benefiting from white supremacy too. Then I would say yes, they are our peers. But being that we are an oppressed class of people and they have unearned privileges, they are not our peers. So when they say a jury of our peers, there is no, because of white supremacy, white people could never possibly be our peers, period. And I think that that is one thing we should have made America prove. If white people and black people are peers, then how come we are living very different lives in America? They have privilege on their side. They get all kinds of unearned things because they have pale skin. We are an oppressed class of people, and because of our skin, we are left out of everything in this society. We are purposely shut out. So it should be proven. We should have made them prove to us how they are peers to black people. I promise you, they won't be able to do it. If we took, even if we just used the Jim Crow era in civil rights, we should make white people prove to us that they suffered through Jim Crow and they suffered through civil rights. Now, if they can't prove that they suffered through those two things, then they should not be in a position to claim they are our peers. Hi, King Hebrew. Shalom. Okay, that is one thing that we should have done in all of these years during these court cases. You know, they are not in a position to be over us in the courts if we made them prove this. Okay, so let's look at how mass incarceration, which is today's slavery, is fueling the American economy. All right, so let's go through this. Follow the money of mass incarceration, the cost of imprisonment, including two benefits, and who pays, is a major part of the national discussion around criminal justice policy. But prisons and jails are just one piece of the criminal justice system, and the amount of media and policy attention that the various players get is not necessarily proportional to their influence. In this first of its kind report, we find that the system of mass incarceration costs the government and families of justice involved people at least $182 billion every year. Okay, so let's look at everything that's involved in mass incarceration. They probably by now have made trillions off of mass incarceration because it has been going on since the Bill Clinton era. Remember the 3 strikes you're out? I can't even believe we're letting that scumbag walk untouched on this planet for what he did to us. Bill Clinton, when I hope he goes to the worst part of hell, him and Hillary, because they Bill Clinton signed the bill into law, and Hillary, when she was first lady, lobbied that bill to Congress. So she's not innocent. She is far from innocent. Both of them should burn in the worst part of hell, as far as I'm concerned, for what they did to us. So we went through the crack epidemic, which destroyed families. And then when Bill Clinton put that 3 strikes you're out bill into play, The Black family has never been the same from that point on. We have been a very divided people. That division we have never bounced back from to this day for what Bill Clinton did. And for that reason alone, we are entitled to reparations. And to this day, many of you saw my video on how the majority of people that are sitting in prison has not even been convicted of a crime. That is very significant. 66% of the people sitting in prison that have been mass incarcerated have not even been convicted of a crime, and they are sitting in jail. And you'll understand why as we get through most of this. Okay, now let's take a look. Follow the money, mass incarceration. Okay, so countrywide, public correction agencies, these are jails, prisons, jails, parole, and probation, $80.7 billion. $80.7 billion. So you see how much money, oh man, you see how much money they're pouring into this thing just to have us in there and make their profit? Judicial and legal, this is criminal law only, $29.0 billion. The prosecutors, $5.8 billion. Indignant defense, $4.5 billion. Public employees, these are monies to pay for people that are working in the prison system, but they are public employees, $38.4 billion. Healthcare in the prison system, $12.3 billion. These are your medical assistants, your nurses, and your doctors. Construction, you know, whenever they're building a new facility or adding on to a facility or just upgrading a facility, $3.3 billion. Policing, criminal law only, $63.2 billion. You see, these people are getting paid, right? At our expense, all off of mass incarceration. Interest payments, $1.9 billion. And this is on past construction. Food provided in the prison system, $2.1 billion. Civil asset forfeiture, $4.5 billion. Bail fees, only the fees paid to the bondsman, $1.4 billion, okay, is paid to bondsmen. Utilities, $1.7 billion. This is what your utility company is getting from providing those utilities to prisons. Private corrections, and these are private prisons, $3.9 billion. Cost to families, $2.9 billion. Commissary, $1.6 billion. You see, when we're involved in anything, everything stays in the billions. Private prison profits, 0.37 billion. So it's 374 million in profits. Telephone calls from prison, $1.3 billion. You see how they make all this damn money off of us? Okay, so altogether, ladies and gentlemen, this is $182 billion right here. Except for private prison profit, the graph only include costs of more than $1 billion a year. All figures are based on the most recent available. All right, so look, you got everybody making money off of us. You got the phone company making money. You got the utility company, bail bondsmen, the entire legal system, construction, food services making money. Everybody is making money at our expense, as you can see, right? Everybody is making money at our expense, mass incarcerating the Black people. It's disgusting. So now you know why you're being grabbed by the slave catchers in America and stuffed in there. It's because every sector is making money at our expense. Every sector is. You're not even getting to the services that provide sheets and pillowcases and eating utensils. You haven't even touched the surface of them. It's so much more that's not even on the list. Okay. But what I'm trying to show you is the reason why they're never going to stop mass incarcerating us. They're not going to stop doing this. They're not going to stop doing it, ladies and gentlemen, because everybody is making a killing off of us being in prison. Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much. Okay. Everybody is making a killing off of us, y'all. And because billions of dollars are going to everybody involved, they are never going to stop grabbing and putting us in the prisons. That's what you have to understand. We can complain all we want, but money is first to America. Money is and always will be first to this country. It is upsetting. You're right, S-Mac. It's deeply upsetting that you would think, we contributed so much to this country through slavery, and this country still needs us to make its economy work. They still need us to be the slave class in this nation. Okay? The Mexicans, in my opinion, are just a smokescreen. Oh, well, you got the Mexicans, and that's really false, because many of these farms are using prison labor. They're not all using Mexicans. Some of them are using the immigrants, but not all. There are many of these guys, men and women, in prisons, and they are working these farms as well. They just don't talk about it as much. So, but the Mexican, they are really pretty, they haven't been at farming in this country as long as the Black man, woman, and child. We are and still are really that sector too. But it's disgusting. You see how they're making a killing off of us. It's disgusting. But this is it. Everybody is getting money at our expense. And right now, many states are getting the bulk of their economy, the ones that are involved in private prisons, making profits on the captive prison market. So mass incarceration is definitely today's slavery. And it is covering so many different things. You just can't imagine. You can't imagine. But in one of these, hold on. I'm going to get to, yeah, here we go. Here are the states. A proportion of incarcerated population in private prisons. And this is from 2015. And as you can see on the map, the colored states are the ones that have private prisons. The states that you see in color have private prisons. And this is where you have your heaviest mass incarceration going on in the country. Is going on in the states that you see color coded on this map. So you can also see down here, it breaks down all of the states that are doing a lot of heavy duty mass incarceration, and it's damn near the whole nation. These are all of the states. If you see a 0 across, that means they don't have any private prisons. But if you see numbers across, then that's a state that's doing a lot of mass incarceration for the private prisons. This is absolutely disgusting. And this is why we will always be the main target. And it won't change. And as you can see, these are not all southern states. They're states all over the country that practice mass incarceration. And you can see this is from 2000, private prison population 2000 and 2016. Okay, back then the population of private prisons and inmates in 2000 was 87,369. By 2016, the private prison population was 128,063. Okay, now prison for profit is actually on the stock market. And yes, they even lobby for this, y'all. Your politicians are lobbied to allow these prisons to be there. And you know what? Even your black politician is invested in this. Even the ones that look like us. You ever wonder why all those black congressmen and women are sitting there in Washington and none of them are speaking out against these private prisons? There's a reason for that. Okay. And this article talks about Senator Marco Rubio, who's the biggest beneficiary of private prisons in the state of Florida. And he has a lot of political influence, and he's very much in bed in the private prison industry. And he's been paid heavily for providing contracts in the state of Florida to build private prison. Marco Rubio is the main one behind that in the state of Florida. So Rubio was leading the House, and he awarded contracts to $110 million for prisons, private prisons to go up. Yeah, so Americans and immigrants behind bars, such as California, 3 strikes you're out rule, and Arizona's highly controversial anti-illegal immigration law. So you ever notice they always come up with the kind of laws where it's going to impact everybody else except for white men, women, and children. 3 strikes you're out is for us. And then, of course, they got it. And I'm going to get even deeper with this, y'all. Do you know all of the facilities some of you may not know this. All of the facilities, y'all, that the illegal immigrants are in, those facilities were financed by private prisons. So all of these cages that they put illegal immigrants in, do you know the same people that own the private prisons own the facilities that they put illegal immigrants in? The same people own it. Thank you, Magic City Photography. The same people own that facility too. When they were caging up the illegal children in facilities, guess what? The same people that own the private prisons are the same ones that are caging up the immigrants. It's all tied together. That's what you must understand. So they took the money from the private prisons and bought facilities for illegal immigrants. It's all being done by the same devil. All of it. Yeah, there's a lot of money to be made. That's why it's on the stock market. La La Papa, it's huge business. Private prison is huge in this country. Now, that's why I did a video on all of the corporations that are making a killing in the private prison industry. It's a very lucrative business. And of course, we are the main target of what they want in those facilities. This is why so many of our men are targeted constantly, because they made a promise to keep these prisons at a, I know I got it in here. Hold on one second. So I just want you to know your Congress people are responsible. Okay, here we go. It's right here in this Washington Post article. Nearly 2/3 of private prison contracts mandate that state and local governments maintain certain capacity rates, usually 90%. So they got to keep these facilities packed at least 90%. This is the reason why there are more people in prison that never been convicted of a crime. This is the reason why. And this is the reason why every year we see people that sat in there for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and all of a sudden they get exonerated. This is all tied together. So they have to keep 90% occupancy in the private prison, or require taxpayers for empty beds. So they are getting paid no matter what. So if the beds are empty, the money is coming from the taxpayers like me and you. But if they can keep it at a 90% rate all the time, which means they need to mass incarcerate in order to do that, they're all making a profit. So there's even a lockup quota. Listen to this. At the federal level, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention budget includes a mandate from Congress. See, this is how your politicians are all involved in this. That at least 34,000 immigrants remain detained on a daily basis, a quota that has steadily grown each year, even as the undocumented immigrant population in the United States has leveled off. Private prisons have profited handsomely from that policy. So every time ICE rounds up illegals, that is an offshoot from the profits they've made from mass incarceration. Yes. So this is why you see ICE making these raids, because they got to keep at least 34 34,000 illegals in the facilities at all times on a daily basis. How are they able to do that? From all the funding that they got from mass incarceration from us, mainly primarily Black people. So they took their profits from the private prisons and mass incarcerations, and they invested it in illegal immigration and rounding up the illegals. They make a huge profit off of that too. But listen, but these Mexicans hate us, and they don't realize the system is using their asses too. You see, the whole thing makes it makes no sense that a Mexican would be mad at Black people when the system are mass incarcerating really both of us and making a profit off of rounding up the illegals and rounding us up for the intent of profit, y'all. So everything they made from the private prisons, they are investing in other sectors to make even more money off of the dark people in this country. So for every illegal they round up, they're making a huge profit. For all of us that the slave catchers go out and snatch from the streets, they make a profit. They don't care about us. They don't care about us. Just understand that. They don't care that we're upset. When you are standing there and you're saying to that cop, I didn't do anything, you're right. You didn't do anything. They have to meet a quota. The state made a promise. They made a multi-billion-dollar contract with these private prisons to keep it at 90% capacity. So when that person is standing there saying to the cop, I didn't do anything, they're telling the truth. They're telling the truth. But they don't care. Just like they didn't care about your tears on the plantation during chattel slavery. They don't care that they are rounding up innocent people and putting them in prison. Now you should understand why that is happening. And this is important. And not enough people among our people understand this. The system really truly is a corporation. It is. Without mass incarceration, states would not have the economy that they have. A lot of these states that have these prisons in there, the money that's being made in these prisons from the labor, which is free or they get pennies on the dollar, these states are getting the majority of their economy from private prisons. Just like going right back to chattel slavery, where the entire economy in the US came from chattel slavery. Today, their economy is coming from mass incarceration. And the Mexicans that hate us so much don't realize they're being round up for profit. And they're hating on us. And it really, their hatred makes no sense at all. We're both being used. So now, all right, so immigration, we know they have to keep it at least 34,000 immigrants must be detained on a regular basis to make quota. Private prisons have profited handsomely from the policy of immigration because, like I said, the same people that own the private prisons own the 9 out of 10 ICE detention centers are owned by the same people that own the private prisons. And all of this is being lobbied, and shares are sold on the Wall Street market. This is really disgusting when you really get into it. With the growth and influence of prison lobby, these are people that are in Washington lobbying the politicians on these private prisons and paying these politicians to go along and vote and do everything to keep this all alive. So it doesn't matter if it's a black or white politician, they are really all enemies to us. They really are. With the growing influence of the prison lobby, the nation is, in fact, commoditizing human bodies for an industry in militant pursuit of profit. For instance, privatization created the atmosphere that made kids for cash scandal possible, in which 2 Pennsylvania judges, listen to this, received $2.6 million in kickbacks for profit juvenile detention centers for sending more kids to the facility with unusually long sentences. So they're even getting our children. So they paid these judges, the same people that own the private prison, paid 2 Pennsylvania judges to snatch up our Black children and put them in juvenile detention and give them these crazy long ass sentences. The influence of private prisons create a system that trades money for human freedom. So when those cops are snatching Black men, women, and children off of the street, this is all for profit. You're not committing any crimes. I think many of us, in the phone calls that they're making to the police, you should know we're not committing the crimes that they claimed that we were doing. Often at the expense of the nation's most vulnerable population, which are the Black people right now and the immigrants and anyone that's poor. We are literally being sold for money. So if we are being sold into a system of private prisons and immigrant ICE facilities for money, then slavery, chattel slavery hasn't gone anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm trying to show you. So they even built juvenile detention centers, and they paid judges off to get our children and even mass incarcerate them. I mean, this is sick what's going on. But we must know and understand. Oh yeah, do you know the federal prisons are also invested in the private prisons? That's another thing I meant to tell you. And you posting that, just brought that to mind. So when they try to act like the federal institutions are different from the private, no, even the federal prisons are heavily invested in the private prisons. So a lot of funding that goes into the federal prisons actually came from the private prison. The whole thing is tied together. The whole thing, the whole system is tied together, y'all. So as you can see, we are nothing more than human commodity, even to this day. First commodity ever sold on Wall Street were slaves. And now we're in the day and age of the private prison, and we are still human commodity. And your politicians have gladly co-signed this. There is a reason why you never hear any Black politician in Congress standing up against this. Because, don't think, these people are all the enemy, y'all. I hate to tell you this, but it is the truth. Every politician in Washington, Democrat and Republican, are the real true enemy of our people, because they are the ones that enable these private prisons and mass incarceration in this country. They co-signed on this shit. That's why it's happening. America is a very codependent nation. It heavily depends on using human labor, slave labor, in order to exist. If the prisons were emptied out tomorrow, America would be gone. It would literally be gone. You're right, audio discourse. It is all part of the, this is why I'm trying to tell you all, it's all part of the same system. Federal prison, state prison are also tied to private prison. It's all part of the same evil entity in this country. And it doesn't matter anyway, state, federal, private, the main target will always be us in those facilities. And they set it up that way. Most states have a contract with these prisons they promise to keep these prisons anywhere from 70 to 90% capacity at all times. So I just want you all to understand why so many innocent people are in jail. It has gotten so bad now. The majority of people in these jails have never committed a single crime, but they are in there to fulfill a need, slavery, really. Yeah. It's a terrible thing, and I have to agree with a lot of the chatter now for everybody to get their passport. You really should get you a passport. Everybody in my household, my son has a passport. I have a passport. Everybody in my household has a passport. It is very important that we get that, because we don't know when we are going to have to just get out of this place. So if you can't do anything else right now, get your passport. And if you have a location near you, you can go in there with your application and just sit and wait and get your passport. The location for me is over in Pennsylvania. If I go over there with my application, I just got to sit and wait for them to do my passport, and I leave. Or if you mail it in, it really don't take that long for you to get it back in the mail. Now, mine, I went in person. My son's passport was done by mail. And it really didn't take that long. He got it in like 2 weeks. He had it back, had his passport. They're not that expensive. If you're getting your first passport, it really varies from state to state. But you can get your application from your local post office. If you don't, hold on, let me see if I can, there's an application online. Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up. See if there's some of these are places that will help you with your passport. See if I can get this one. Yeah, here's one right here. Applying for the first time. And it gives you, yep, form DS-11. And you can actually fill the whole thing out online. It's a PDF that you can fill out. But I want to see if I can get the actual, let me see if I can get the US Postal Service. But yeah, you can apply electronically. I want to get to the US Postal Service. Let's see. First town passport right here. And it tells you right there, you can go to your postal service, apply in person. So if you go and apply in person, you need one of the following. You are applying for your first US passport. You have to be at least, if you are under the age of 16, of course, you would have to do it through your parents. Or if your passport is lost or stolen or damaged. All right, so you can go right up to your US Postal Service and you can fill out the application. Okay, statements. Pull up the filler form. Okay. Auxiliary, you'll need a passport, emergency contact, reader, lost or stolen. All right, here it is. This is the application you can fill out online, and you go through the whole thing and then print it out. Let me just leave. Let me see if I can put this in the chat. US passport. Oh, it's not going to let me do that? Too many characters. What the hell do you mean too many characters? Oh, it's not going to let me do it. That's screwed up. All right, hold on. See something here. They're saying the URL is too. Let me see something. URL. See if I can shorten it. Unable to create. Oh, you suck. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can try another one. Let's try this shorter URL. US pass. All right, there we go. Or like I said, you can go to your local post office, walk in there, and they will give you an application to fill out. And it's pretty easy to fill out. Of course, you'll need ID, like your driver's license, or if you're going to need your birth certificate and things like that. If you are renewing, the only thing you need to do is give them your old passport. You don't have to even show ID beyond that. You just got to give them your old passport in order to get your new one. It's a lot easier once you have to renew. But yeah, I mean, it's a terrible situation that we're in. Some of us, I think we get up and yeah, we have our passport too, Mitch. Yeah, I think it's really good to have. We get up every day and we live our daily lives and we don't realize how bad this government and the citizens that hate us are really screwing us over big time, big time. And some of us may not be directly impacted as much as others, but it's not going to get better. Just understand that. You know, this is why I can't stand either party. I can't stand Democrats or Republicans because they have all played into this whole system against us. And not one of them are rising up against it. So I'm sorry. I just can't, you know, when people talk about Black politicians, if you notice, I don't do a lot of videos on even Black politicians because they know all of this stuff is going on with mass incarceration, and not one of them is willing to step up and fight the system. Not one of them. So I'm not really behind any of them either. And then you had the situation with the pastors sitting with Trump, and they were supposed to be talking about prison reform. Instead, they were all sitting around the table acting like a groupie around Trump. It was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting. They did not get not one productive thing done in that meeting. But see, they know the kind of Negro that they want around them. They want the most docile, do nothing Negro that they can pluck from the crowd. That's the kind they want around Trump. Docile, the ones that'll sit there and they're swooning because they're in front of this white man. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. Well, first of all, pastors should not be looked upon as leaders within the Black community. That is something that we have to change and let the world know these pastors are not our leaders. And see, you know, white people even want to be in control over who leads us. So they are pretty much shoving these pastors down our throats, saying, oh, well, you know, we brought the leaders to Washington of the Black community, your pastors. Fuck that. They're not my leader. Get out of here. Those pastors are not my leaders at all. They're not our leaders, period. You know, but see, they want to be in a position to tell us who our leadership are. Those are not our leaders that were sitting around Trump. They were no more than a groupie as far as I'm concerned. They were a bunch of Black groupies sitting around Massa, sitting there glorifying Massa. And I don't know what he wants to talk to a bunch of pastors about prison reform. That, to me, that was not even the right group of people to have that conversation with. Seriously, why would you pick a bunch of pastors to have a conversation about prison reform? Why didn't you have that conversation with movers, movers and shakers? I could see a group of Black lawyers over pastors in that situation. Why would you pick pastors to have a conversation about prison reform? That, to me, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know if that made sense to any of you, but that just don't make sense. That, to me, they were not the appropriate people to have that conversation with. Makes no sense. Yeah, but Pastor Porkchop is, what does he got to do with the prison system? That's what I want to know. Those people don't care about us being, pastors in this country do not care about us being mass incarcerated. They don't care. They got churches right there in the middle of Black communities and they're not even helping the poor community that's around them. So if they're not helping the poor community, what are they going to do for mass incarceration? Nothing. Nothing. Okay, I'll tell you what they're going to do. You know what, Richie Baltimore, you're right. And Christians are some of the most violent people that you'll ever meet in your life. Those are the ones that will literally have a knockdown, drag down fight with you. I bet you if one of us got in that room and cussed Trump out, those coon pastors would have bum rushed you, knocked you all down on the ground all over Trump. That's the kind of mentality they have. They'll fight you, have a physical fight with you over Trump. That's how far gone these pastors are. It's disgusting. Your modern day Sambo. I bet if I stood up in that room with all those pastors and said, Trump ain't shit, Trump ain't about nothing, those pastors would have got right up and bum rushed me in the room. But that's what I'm telling you. Christians are violent. They are some of the most violent ones within the Black community. Those are the ones that will fight and kill other Black people and call themselves Christians. Yeah, yeah. They would have had me pent on the floor and everything. I mean, seriously, y'all, we are in a messed up situation. But the more aware you are, the better off you'll be to keep yourself protected against some of the most obvious things that are going on out here. And also, just one more thing, because I'm going to let y'all go because I know it's getting kind of late. Another thing is they are shutting schools down. I think they recently closed 21 schools in the city of Philadelphia. I think it's like 21 or 31, something like that. And ladies and gentlemen, they are closing those schools in our community across the country because, see, that also ensures them in mass incarcerating us. That's another tool that they're using to shut us out, shut our children out in education, where you are forced to send your Black children to other neighborhoods, mainly white, for education. And it's another tool that's used in our community for mass incarceration. No open schools in the Black community. Yeah, a lot of schools are closing. A lot of them are. Even around me, you know, in my township, there's a bunch of schools, and I would say over half of them are closed now. Over half of the schools are closed. So it's happening all over. Yeah. And see, that's why I homeschooled my son. I don't want white teachers teaching my kids, because the only thing a white teacher is going to do is prepare your kid for prison. That's all that teacher is doing. They are of no use in the Black community. And that's one thing I wish our people would realize and get all of these, especially white female teachers, out of our community. They need to get them out of the community. The people that live in the community those jobs should be first offered to the people that live in the community. All of those white teachers and white cops, they don't live in our community. But so they shouldn't have those jobs. But we live in such a racist system, they don't even want people in our community to have jobs, people that look like us to have those jobs. They're so hardcore racist. They won't even let us do that. I know black men and women that live within the city and they can't even get a teaching job in the city that they live in. That is ridiculous, but you know, it's done on purpose. They don't want black teachers in there. They'll try to throw in a few little tokens, but for the most part, they want that white female teacher in there. They want her racist ass around your black children. Well, you know what, Stephen Atkins, they don't understand the psyche of a black child. So when our kids speak up and defend themselves, they always see everything as a threat. But if a white person, a white little girl or boy are assertive and speak up, they see that as a good thing. See, they'll pat them on the head for being assertive. But if our children are assertive, I felt threatened. That's why you don't need to be around black children. You don't understand the psyche of a black child. Our children will get assertive and sometimes they will speak up for themselves. They even will do this with their parents. If they feel something is not right about what a parent tells them to do, that's just how our kids are. That's how they are. That is the assertiveness of our black children. We understand that, and we understand those things about our kids. My son was like that. He still is. He's assertive. Sometimes I'll tell him something and he'll just say, Mom, I don't agree with that, you know, and he'll tell me why he doesn't agree with it. That's the psyche of a black child. And they don't understand that. First of all, anything from us is a threat to them. And for that reason alone, they don't need to be in our presence the way that they are now. Because they just, every time they're around us, it tells me that even their spirits are tormented when they're around us. So tormented that they just go into a rage over nothing. I was just looking at Phil from the Advice Show. He showed some guy that was in a pool with his son, and this white woman was freaking out and screaming, talk about, where do you live? See, that's another thing. Don't you ever tell a racist where you live. Never give them your address. So if you get confronted out in public and they scream all that, where do you live? Don't you ever give them your address. And she was just going into a complete rage over a father and son in a pool. First of all, he opened the gate and then went back in with his key. I wouldn't have done that. I would not have done that. I don't have to answer to these damn racists out in public like that. You know, they want, well, what apartment? What apartment? What's your address? No, 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 no. But see, they have gotten away with that stuff for way too long. And we got to stop answering to racists. That's the first thing we have to shut down. And we haven't done that yet. And that is our fault. Yeah. Yeah, we know we're not in the show me your papers boy era anymore. That is gone. That is gone. But I just think every time I see that, I think they got a lot of nerve asking for ID and asking that we provide them with an address. I'm just completely floored by that, but they really in their minds feel that they have the right to ask black people for those things. And no one else is getting targeted out here. That's one thing Phil from the Advice Show said. They're not targeting Asians or Hispanics. The only ones they're doing this stuff to out in public are us, the black men, women, and children. We're the only targets on their radar. They're not doing it to everybody. So it's Jim Crow all over again. This is definitely Jim Crow with them pitching a fit out in public at black folks. This is nothing but Jim Crow. Yeah, I would walk away too. If no crime was committed, they can't hold me, and they can't be screaming, well, I got 911 on the phone. You can't leave. Yes, I can. I don't give a fuck who you got on the phone. Yes, I can. If no crime is committed, yeah, I can leave. You know, and if they sit there and tell you you can't leave, then that is a kidnapping. That is a kidnapping. That's when you get on 911 and say, I am being threatened of a kidnapping by an opioid addict that just approached me out of nowhere for no reason. They're screaming and over, I can't leave, I can't leave. So I'm calling in a kidnapping to 911. That's what you do. I'm serious. Calling in as a kidnapping. Seriously, that's what you do. But you don't let them get the upper hand. You get the upper hand. Because I'm sorry, if they tell me you can't leave, I'm calling 911 and I'm calling it in as a kidnapping. I'm being held against my will. I'm being threatened if I leave. So I consider this a kidnapping. I'm calling a kidnapping and to 911. Some crackhead is standing here screaming incoherently and telling me I can't leave. It's a kidnapping. So you just got to learn how to flip it around on them. But you don't let them get away with it. So if you choose to stay, make sure you get your phone out and record everything. And make sure you follow through and sue their butts. Take them to court and sue them for what they did. Yeah, you can call them whatever you want. Just let them know that they're acting erratic. See, the way that woman was screaming at the black man and his child that was in the pool, she looked like a damn rabid dog screaming through a fence at a black man and a teenager in a pool. And when you look at the expression on her face and her screaming at the top of her lungs, she looked like a damn rabid dog. Now, why on earth would I look at this screaming woman and provide her with my address? Your ass look crazy as hell. I ain't giving you nothing. That's why I'm going to say this again. Don't let your kids leave out of your house completely unprepared for the stuff that's out here in public. Let them know there are some really, there's some very fragile white people out there. Cops on you, you can have them, you can tell your child, you call me right away. Call me. And if you are not available, they call 911. But that is the one thing I don't like. I don't like them approaching Black children. I don't believe they have a right to be approaching our children and bitching and complaining in the face of our children like that. If you got a problem with the child, you deal with the adult. You don't go directly to no child and start a situation. And that I don't like. Yeah, well, to me, they're all demons. They got a demon that lives within them 24/7. And we have to be the ones to shut it down. Yeah. Yep. All right, y'all. I would do a longer hangout, but I was not anticipating starting as late as I did, but I'm glad I was able to at least get on long enough to do what I wanted to do. So we'll do maybe towards the end of the week, like Friday, I'll do another hangout. And that way I can have a panel come on and we can just sit around and chop it up over some of the most recent events that came out. And, and then I can do a longer hangout too. So I just want to thank you all for hanging in there and showing up under these crappy circumstances. But at least you came, and I do deeply appreciate that. So please enjoy the rest of your night wherever you are in the country, or even if you're someone overseas, enjoy your day. And please just stay tuned for my next upcoming videos. Peace, family, and shalom.